Hello, everyone, and welcome to Corey Loses for our January Q&A. Obviously, I am 3 weeks and 1 day late on this, or 2 days. Depends if you want to count inclusively or not. But we are finally doing it, and I will have the next post up for March, so this is going to be up on the Patreon. There will be a link in the description, and I will have it out before the end of the month this month. Before I get into the questions, I've basically been trying to work for the last few weeks on better organizing how and when I do stuff. Part of that is obviously stuff like this. I've fallen behind on a few of the Patreon rewards, and I really need to not do that. But if you've watched the community page on the channel, I've been trying to schedule the streams more ahead of time, get the videos recorded more ahead of time. Same thing with Datapad, my lore channel, where I've been trying to work on videos more ahead of time as well. So I'm kind of setting up a better way for me to balance work and life where usually I'm in this kind of mix of always working and not working, where I'll pick away at stuff throughout the day and it'll end up being that I'm still spending a lot of time working, but there's no specific time that I'm actually spending not working or working. So I haven't been as good at prioritizing what needs to get done between the channels, the mods, and just other life stuff. So typically, if I was going to be picking away at stuff while working, the easiest thing or the most obvious things for me to do are mod things often, which isn't really work because that has nothing to do with the channel technically. So I'm working out better ways to actually schedule doing stuff. Typically, that's going to mean doing datapad videos first, recording second, and then, well, any kind of like channel organizational stuff first, then datapad, then recording for Corey Loses as well. And hopefully that'll end up meaning 2 to 3 extra datapad videos per week, or 2 to 3 datapad videos per week plus TapCaf, and then 6 videos here on Corey Loses plus however many streams. So I've been doing those community tab stream schedules at the start of every week. There's certain things like the tabletop stuff with Shaq and Ek, that and Wasted and Charlie, that I can't really schedule ahead of time as reliably because it depends on everyone's schedule working out. So we'd been hoping to do that for the last few Sundays, but that hasn't worked out, and it's technically on hiatus right now, but we'll be finishing that at some point. I've been thinking about doing a video version of those schedules as well. So at the start of every week, there'll be like a 3 to 5 minute video on Monday because I'm normally not posting videos on Monday anymore. I'll usually do a Twitch stream instead, or a stream at night as well. But I haven't been doing many recorded videos on Mondays. So I was thinking I could do a video kind of like this, quick channel update, have the stream schedule up here with all these new graphics that I've got where I'm going to be having the questions today. But with that said, let's get into our questions. First is Hawkeye, who asks, first, how are you? I am doing good. This is the first kind of update video since I've built my computer, which has worked out much better than I thought it would. I was afraid that I would be kind of not very well set up for Empire at War, but it's made rendering videos so much faster. It used to be that I couldn't do anything for about 3 or 4 hours if I wanted to render 3 or 4 hours worth of Corey Loses videos, or an hour if I wanted to render a datapad video. But now the datapad videos render in like 20 minutes, and the Loses videos render in about a quarter to half of the runtime, which is so much faster than it was. Which makes it just so much easier for me to get stuff done and like have those times that I can just set aside and say I'm actually working right now, because that's like lunch break time for rendering, and I can even do other stuff while it's rendering too, which it's just so nice because it's so many CPU cores. But his second question from Hawkeye here is, with the Petroglyph patch for Empire War, what new ideas are you looking forward to including or trying? I've mentioned a couple things throughout some of the Let's Plays since this question was asked, but the big things are that we're able to do a bit more with factions, which will mean some extra stuff with revolts that I haven't really talked about. That'll probably get explained further in other areas. But one change that I do really want to highlight here is the change that allows you to read text just from whatever is stated there. So if you've played much Empire War recently, you'll notice that instead of saying like just missing, which everyone I think who plays Empire at War is kind of familiar with, Empire at War mods at least, it'll say the name of the string that's missing. This means that you can actually write whatever you want in there. And this is especially flexible with Lua, where we're able to kind of just make sentences with however many variables we want, or make strings with however many variables we want, where before we were limited to one. So that means we're a bit more easily able to show certain things in the text, like the ship crew amounts. Those were handled through a a list like 3,000 different string entries, and that's why if you go above 3,000 ship crews, it'll just say like text strings underscore and then the number, because now we can just have it say ship crews colon space number without having to have any strings for that at all, which gets rid of 3,000 entries from our text file, which is just great. So it's probably the most boring thing I could possibly say, but it's really nice. Like Pox is really excited about it. I'm really enjoying using that for certain things. It'll also hopefully make the patron ships a bit easier to make as well, because I can just put the names in the actual unit code, which will make it a bit easier for me to know what I'm actually working on anytime, rather than being like text patron 81. I'm going to be hopefully doing like a script to automatically generate the unit code, which will just make things so much faster. But our second set of questions here comes from Crate Dragon Scrambled Eggs, who asks, what is your favorite moment from the movies, like a scene that gives you a lot of hope, joy, or just feels amazing somehow? I was thinking about this answer, and I think it is like the Battle of Scarif and everything with the Battle of Scarif. Like the last third of Rogue One. I'm probably in the minority that actually likes Rogue One all the way through. But I've always liked the space battles. They're one of the things that got me into Star Wars. So even if it's not like the most meaningful set of things, it's to me some of the visually coolest stuff in the part of a Star Wars movie that I'm sitting there the whole time looking forward to, which isn't something that I've necessarily got in every one of the movies. So I think that's my answer. It'd probably change any other time you ask me, or every time you ask me. So, but that's what it is right now. Our next question, thank you, Great and Hawkeye, comes from Darth Plagues. What is your favorite animal? I think foxes are my favorite animal. I probably wouldn't ever want one as a pet. I don't have that much energy, but yeah, I don't know how responsible they are to have as pets. I've never really looked into having them. I assume it's irresponsible, but foxes are my favorite animal, I think. Thank you, Plague. So our next question comes from Black Wolf, who asks, what was the most challenging but most rewarding part of TR 3.0 for your team? Um, I don't know. There's a few ways to go about that. There's the most challenging, and then there's most rewarding, which are sometimes different, sometimes the same. But like the most challenging thing has actually been post release with the save reset bug. Uh, so that was the bug where you would load a save, and then sometimes the game would just reset back to the original starting forces and everything. That was very hard to test for because I've never had it happen to me. So if I'm not able to reliably recreate something, it makes it difficult to test for it. Uh, I wouldn't say that it was necessarily rewarding when we fixed it. It's more like there's something like that that comes up every time, and sometimes it's harder than others. But it's always like, what is the big bug going to be this time? But other than that, I think we got on a much better place with the team as a whole. It was difficult kind of figuring out how to organize so many people because the team has grown so much in the last year or two. So from my end, that was kind of one of the more difficult things. But when it works, one of the more rewarding things is trying to find ways to get everyone's input and have them feel like they're uh, they're contributing to the areas of the mod that they want to. Because the team is very large. It's very difficult to get everyone's input on everything. So that means that like I try to at least make sure in the areas where people are specifically working on, they have more input. But that's probably been one of the most challenging things, at least personally. I think for us as a whole, we were all really happy with how 3.0 and 1.0 turned out. other than a few bugs, but it was probably one of the releases that we were most happy with immediately as release was happening. Because that doesn't always happen, where it'll sometimes feel like, oh, there's more that we wanted to do, but if we tried to do more, we'd just be ballooning the development time. We'd be kind of extending development indefinitely. Where we kind of got a lot of what we wanted to right now. We obviously had some other stuff that we had planned uh, that we wanted to work on immediately after that we were like holding off for. But we felt like the scope of what we were doing was really good. We felt like the end result was really good and for what we were trying to do. And so generally, just the release as a whole, it was one of the longer release cycles recently. It came close to a year for Fall of the Republic, at least. Actually, did they come out in May? The last year's been a complete shit show, but I don't remember how time works anymore. But yeah, I think that answers your question. I hope that answers your question. I know it's not the most specific answer, but hopefully that worked for you, Black Wolf. Thank you for the question. Liam is asking for our next question here. When did you start modding Empire at War and why? So I've done kind of a full history of TR last year, I think, and I went into a bit of this at the start. So I'll try to link to that not in the description, in the comments. I'll pin a comment with that link because I think like it's a much longer video, so it'd probably have more of this information if that's what you're looking for. But like my initial introduction to modding, I just wanted to add Thrawn into Empire at War because I just read the Thrawn trilogy. I was just getting into Empire at War. The game had just come out, and eventually that kind of ballooned into TR. And part of it was also that I had no idea what I was doing, and like I was waiting for other larger mods to come out, and it was like, oh, the game's out. Why aren't these mods out? Because I didn't understand how any of that really worked. So I started just kind of trying to learn how to do this stuff myself and get what I wanted to play out. Because like, and then when mods would come out, it wasn't exactly what I wanted, which doesn't mean that they're bad. Just that I had my own ideas of what I wanted to play with, and that's kind of what modding comes from. So that was really what got me into it, I guess. Next question comes from Dylan. So thank you, Liam. Next question comes from Dylan, who says Ubisoft is confirmed to be confirmed, not concerned, to be working on a Star Wars game as EA lost its exclusive contract. And we all start a petition with LucasArts to get Petroglyph to make Empire at War 2. I don't think, well, it's not LucasArts anymore. It's Lucasfilm Games, which is technically a distinct entity, which is like, it sounds like just a name thing, but it's not that LucasArts has been revived. Lucasfilm's Games is still pretty much licensing. That's their thing. They're not a publishing house like LucasArts was. So it wouldn't necessarily be Petroglyph and LucasArts making Empire at War 2. So the thing that they would need is still a publisher. So Petroglyph would first need to convince a publisher, and then they would need to bring that to Lucasfilm Games to get a license to do the game. So it wouldn't just be Petroglyph going to Lucasfilm Games saying, hey, we want to make this, let us do it. And I said this in I think I did a video when the contract was lost. I actually did it on Datapad. I don't know that I put it up on Loses, but since Petroglyph has an ongoing relationship with EA through like Command and Conquer and everything, I still think that EA is the most likely publisher for it. Now, it's possible that losing their exclusivity has made them a bit less precious with what they want to put out or not under Star Wars. So it's the chances of getting an Empire at War 2 have probably come up under that context. But whether or not EA and then Lucasfilm Games would agree to doing that, and whether they'd agree to doing that with Petroglyph in particular, is still harder to answer. This obviously does bring up the chance of getting a general Star Wars RTS or 4X or something, because now any company that works on those things could come forward and ask to do it. Like you could get Paradox or someone doing it. So it does mean that there's a lot more opportunity to see varied Star Wars games. I'm really excited about that. But in terms of what it would mean for Empire at War 2, I don't know that the situation has changed a huge amount from EA being the sole company licensed to publish Star Wars games. Which I know it's probably not the answer people want, but that's how I see it right now. That's what I've been thinking, looking at the evidence we do have and the statements Petroglyph has made on that they want to make it, but they're still not making it yet, and just kind of the organizational way that Lucasfilm Games seems to work. But I don't work within the industry, so my opinion's only worth so much. But thank you, Dylan. We are next going to be answering Cabal's question. You said you're going to look at how the CSA uses the new resources. Any details on that, or is it too early to say? It's too early to say yet. There'll be, generally with the government mechanics, a breakdown video for each of them as we kind of work on them. So the CSA actually has the ship market thing that I was talking about in the CSA stream recently. That'll probably be coming first. Then there's going to be two other likely elements of the CSA government mechanics, but we'll talk about those once they're a bit more fleshed out. Another question from Dylan. So thank you, Cabal. Dylan also asks, is the New Republic going to get its fleet of space whales, or did Thrawn kill them all? We'd have to look into that for the new canon mod. Unfortunately, organic models, very difficult to make. But that's going to do it for our questions for this week. I think just going to make sure I haven't lost anything here. The post will be going up very soon for the March patron credit submissions, as well as the questions for this. I am still probably going to be going to an auto-generated patron credit list within the next little while. There will be a few changes to how certain things in the rewards work, just to make it a bit more manageable. So that will be going up soon, and I'll try to do a rundown of everything a few months in advance of any changes actually going into place, so people have a chance to either tell me that I'm stupid for doing it and to not do it, as well as at least know what they're getting into. But thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the video, and hope to see you next time. We're going to be doing Valheim tonight. There will be the stream schedule going up probably before this video does, so check that out if you want to keep on top of what we're going to be doing this week. Bye, everyone.